lot of people dub this as a revenge game, a game to get back on the Eagles, a game to really see where we stood psychologically. Were we going to lose 3 games in a row for the first time in Patrick Mahomes' era? Were we going to get blown out again at home in GEH Field? You know, all of these different things. There's all these different narratives and storylines, but I didn't see it as any of those. I saw it as a measuring stick game. I saw it as a game to almost get right. Welcome back to the Heartland Huddlers. This is Chiefs, Lions, and NFL Talk podcast. I'm Eric Willard, your host. If you've been rocking with us all offseason, and of course, so far the first 2 weeks into this season, salute to you, hats off, we really appreciate it. If you're new here to our YouTube channel or Spotify, please hit that like and subscribe button. That way you can be a part of the debate, you can be a huddler, and you can join this podcast, but also moving as well. But enough of that. I want to jump right into it. Of course, we jump into week 2 of the NFL season this year. The Kansas City Chiefs, they played a tough home game against the defending Super Bowl champs, Philadelphia Eagles. The same Eagles team that really put it on us in the Super Bowl this past February. Now, a lot of people dub this as a revenge game, a game to get back on the Eagles, a game to really see where we stood psychologically. Were we going to lose 3 games in a row for the first time in Patrick Mahomes' era? Were we going to get blown out again at home in GEH Field? You know, all of these different things. There's all these different narratives and storylines, but I didn't see it as any of those. I saw it as a measuring stick game. I saw it as a game to almost get right. Now, when we think of a get-right game, what I mean by that is maybe it's usually a cream puff that you can get your lackluster running game going against, or you can get your passing game going, the defense, whatever that look. However, against the defending Super Bowl champions, down your top 2 wide receivers, and a 35-year-old aging tight end that you can certainly tell, and of course, a lack of a pass rush, I really thought this was a great measuring stick. I thought it was a great barometer of where we were going to be early on this year, especially with all those aforementioned weapons out or injured, things like that. And that's exactly what it was. It was a tough loss, but it was a good loss. And I say good loss. I don't like loser mentalities. I don't like silver linings, and I don't like moral victories. However, looking on the positive side, yes, the Kansas City Chiefs were down Xavier Worthy. They were down Rashee Rice. And of course, you have a Travis Kelce who has a costly turnover in the red zone. More on that in just a few. But with all of those things, it's still a 3-point loss. It's a 1-score ball game, and the Kansas City Chiefs had plenty of opportunities to continue to go win that game. First and foremost, I thought the defense was played extremely well. I think anytime you're going against Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley, arguably the best offensive line in football, and of course A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith on the outside, it's going to be a challenge, right? And then not to mention the fact that Jalen Hurts is a dual threat guy who can also do it with his legs, and he uses that judiciously to be able to sort of knife defenses when all else breaks down. And I thought Chris Jones up front had a really nice game. I thought he had a few pressures, a few opportunities to where he got some pressure on Jalen Hurts and helped stop the run really well against Saquon Barkley and the rest of the crew. And coming into that game, that was one of my biggest concerns. After week 1, playing the Los Angeles Chargers in Sao Paulo, Brazil, the pass rush. I was really hard this last week on our episode this past week over the Chargers week 1. I was really hard on the pass rush as we had 50-plus opportunities and generated 0 pressures on Justin Herbert last week. And so coming into this game, I'm thinking, crap, Jalen Hurts, a guy who can do it both with his legs and his arms, what are we going to do? And I thought they contained him really well. I thought they did a good job of spying him some, and of course, overall helping in the run game against Saquon Barkley, the 2,000-yard rusher from last season. And so overall, I thought it was a good effort on the back end. We corralled A.J. Brown. He's off to a slow start this year. And of course, I thought we had good safety play as well, with the exception of Shamari Connor, who I was extremely hard on last week, and it looks like for good reason. My goodness, Shamari Connor, figure out how to cover somebody and not slip and fall and have busted coverages all day. But besides that, overall, a really great group effort by our defense. Look, anytime you hold any team to 20 points or less, let alone the defending Super Bowl champions, you have a very good opportunity to win the ball game. I argue you should be able, you should be able to win the ball game, if you're holding teams to 20 points or less. I think the Fox broadcast picked up a little bit of banter at the end of the game, when the game was well in hand, between Jalen Hurts and Chris Jones. Chris Jones saying, you don't even have 100 yards, and Jalen Hurts saying, but we won the game. It's really interesting to see, how two sides view those things. But once again, overall, I thought the defense had a really good showing against a really tough and talented Philadelphia Eagles offense. Now, to the offensive side of the ball. Okay. Like I mentioned before, we're down our two main wide receivers, Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice, of course, being suspended for the first 6 games of the season. Xavier Worthy being injured on the 3rd play of the season by his own friendly fire, Travis Kelce, running the wrong route, right? So I do that. Mahomes is playing with his right hand strapped behind his back to start off. The other part of that, and this is something that's not going to get fixed, right, is the run game. Why do I say it's not going to be fixed? Well, we've seen it for the past couple of years. Your number one option is an Isaiah Pacheco who seemingly runs hard, but doesn't actually really run hard. He lacks the vision that a true number one running back can and will have. He doesn't see cutback lanes. He isn't as a patient of a runner as what I'd like to see. But does he chop those little feet and pound them in the dirt and make us all believe that he's this tough-nosed runner. But he really doesn't actually go anywhere. He is then, of course, supplanted or handcuffed by Kareem Hunt, an aging Kareem Hunt, who does see the cutback lanes, who is able to be patient, but his 31-year-old body doesn't allow him to do the things that he once did, namely in his rookie season in 2017 with the Kansas City Chiefs. And so you have all of these different factors, that are plaguing the ball. Injuries, lack of a run game, which helps to control the clock, helps to control the time of possession, keeps Jalen Hurts and another talented offense off the field. And we don't have any of that. If you look at the past, I don't know how many Super Bowls, and I can go on and on. What wins Super Bowls? Well, I would argue that it's running the football effectively and good to great defense. If you can do those things in January and February, you oftentimes come away with the victory. Well, perfect example, this past year, you have a 2,000-yard rusher in Saquon Barkley with Philadelphia, and Philadelphia had one of the best defenses and pass rushers in football this past year. They controlled the clock, time of possession, and they weren't, they didn't let you score when you got the ball, and they kept talented quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes off the field. And largely, for the most part, the Chiefs have been able to run the footballs. In their 3 Super Bowl runs, or Super Bowl wins, I should say, they have been able to run the ball, and we've had excellent defensive performances, especially in the last 2 Super Bowls we won, And right now, that's just lacking. And for Chiefs fans out there that think this is all going to be fixed, with Rashee Rice coming back week 7, with Xavier Worthy hopefully coming back here in week 3 against the New York Giants, that's not the case, guys. And I'm here to tell you, is it going to get better? Yes. Are the Chiefs going to make the playoffs? Absolutely. However, if that run game doesn't get fixed, your ceiling only goes so high. And that's my concern, is that nobody's walking out of that tunnel. A 2017 Kareem Hunt, a Jamal Charles, a whomever is not running out of that huddle to take over the running game. So, I think that harkens back to Brett Veach. I think that goes back to Andy Reid and what he views the running game as and what he always has, which is to be just a complement to the passing game. Just just an extension of the passing game. You go back to his days in Philadelphia, LaShawn McCoy and others, pass-catching scat backs that aren't bell cows on downs 1 through 3. And I think oftentimes that can come back to bite us in the rear. So the run game is something I definitely see that needs to improve. We've been sort of going on and on about it the last few years. We've been able to cover that up with excellent defensive play and great quarterback play. And right now, we just don't have that edge. We're not converting those opportunities. Speaking of opportunities, gosh, did we have a bunch of them in that game to win. Of course, the obvious one in the red zone towards the end of the game, Patrick Mahomes hits Travis Kelce on a slant route. Kelce juggles, bobbles, and it ends up in the defender's hands. I believe he's a rookie, that rookie safety for Philadelphia. Nice young kid. He's kind of gaining his chops. But it does. Kelce juggles the football, ends up in their hands, kills all the momentum. With that score, if you remember, we're going to take the lead and the go-ahead and probably come out with the victory in that game. But you turn the ball in the red zone, you turn the ball over in the red zone, and that's where it gets dicey. It just killed all momentum. Obviously, then Philadelphia is able to go down and they're able to score a touchdown on a tush push, the brotherly shove, whatever you want to call it, and of course, effectively ending the ball game and putting it out of reach. To the tush push. Okay. Let me be very clear, audience, subscribers. Let me be very clear. I am all for gaining the advantage in a competition. I don't care if it's chess, I don't care if it's baseball, football, water polo, curling, bobsledding, or what have you. As long, of course, as it's within the rules, it's legal, and it's in the parameters of the game that have been laid out before us. I don't mind the tush push. I thought it was silly other teams tried to ban it this past offseason by taking a vote. I think that if you can gain an advantage legally, that you should exploit that. It's essentially analytics, right? You know, we've all watched Moneyball with Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill with the Oakland A's and what they did in the early 2000s. We've all seen these analytics enter themselves into sports. It's gaining an advantage. It's why teams, of course, go for it more than ever on fourth down, especially on the plus territory on the opponent's side of the field. Well, that's an advantage to have those numbers, to have those percentages. Use them. I don't mind. However, I don't like gaining an advantage and then it not being refereed correctly, right? And you all know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the two instances in the game. The two instances in the game to where both the left and right guards fired off early, right? Which, of course, is a false start. We all know this. On one of those, it was a 4th and 1. The Chiefs stand to get the ball back. And that false starts would set Philadelphia back 4th and 6, effectively making them punt the ball. The Chiefs get the ball back with a bunch of time. So like I said, I don't mind the tush push. I don't mind gaining an advantage. It is seemingly, when Philadelphia runs it, almost impossible to stop. But it has to be refereed like all the other football plays out there. And that's what fires me up about this. Number one, the center is already lined up head and shoulders over the nose of the football. Well, according to the rule book, the head and shoulders, no part of an offensive line's body or anybody shall be lined up over the nose or further than the football. That's an offsides penalty or, by the offense. So that's number one. The center already lines up head and shoulders over the nose of the football. That should already be an infraction. And then the two guards clearly moving before the snap of the ball to gain the advantage. When you run the play how it's supposed to be run with everybody lined up correctly, is it a hard play to stop? Yes. When you run that play and gain that advantage, but then you cheat at it as well, it becomes impossible to stop. And there is a difference, right? Those percentages might go up from Philadelphia getting it 85% of the time to getting it 98% of the time. And in the National Football League, the margin for error is so small. And if you're, one, have the advantage with the play like that, but then two, of course, can run it illegally, how is any team supposed to stop you? And credit the Chiefs, honestly. Credit Chris Jones and the boys on the defensive line saying, hey, these guys are moving. We don't mind this play, but these guys are moving. What are we supposed to do? Especially when it's in critical moments of the ball game. And so that was my issue with the tush push. Once again, I don't mind gaining an advantage. I don't mind the tush push as a play as a whole. However, when you run it illegally, it becomes impossible to stop, therefore effectively negatively affecting the integrity of the game when it comes to refereeing, giving both sides a fair shot. That's my 2 cents on the tush push. Once again, is that the reason why we lost the game? Absolutely not. But were there some moments to where it would have definitely helped the Chiefs out and maybe changes some things? Absolutely. And those are the things that we have to keep in perspective. Speaking of margins, look, Chiefs Kingdom, we all know the record that we had last year, well, that got snapped last week with the Chargers. 17 wins and 1 possession ball games the Chiefs had, which is just extraordinary when you consider the randomness of the game, when you consider the oblong-shaped football and how that bounces, and when you just consider it's the National Football League. Nobody has that much luck and skill. However, the Chiefs were on a 17-game win streak and 1 scores. We all knew it was going to come to an end. And I think we all knew the Chiefs weren't going to go on another 11 and straight. We had plenty last year. Plenty of stuff we should have lost, but we were able to kind of pull it out from the fire. But I often believe that a lot of times why the Chiefs are able to escape in those situations is because they've opened the door or they've increased their margins for errors around the perimeter. For example, a Travis Kelce who can make extraordinary plays with his legs. For example, having weapons like a Tyreek Hill, having a play caller like Andy Reid, and of course the cheat code that is Patrick Mahomes, right? But this year, with being down your top 2 wide receivers, that margin for error has shrunk. On top of that, Travis Kelce, him being older and losing a step and a half, that margin for error has shrunk. I personally think it used to be that teams had to play a perfect game to beat the Chiefs. And even then, the Chiefs still had enough margin for error that they can still overcome that and win the ball game. Not anymore. And when people talk about this mystique that's around the Chiefs, nobody fears them anymore, that maybe they've lost some of that. Yeah, that mystique that we've had over the last 8 years, really. I don't believe that. What I do believe is that the Chiefs have lost some of their margin for error. On top of that, you have a right tackle in Jawan Taylor that just flat out can't get it together. I was hard on him last week after the 3 false starts and 2 holding penalties. I don't need to rehash it. But he continues to struggle. He ain't it. This is his last year in Kansas City. We all understand that. But when you're an offense who's already down their top 2 wide receivers, when you're an offense who can't even run the football, when you're an offense struggling to get any momentum week after week, the last thing you need is a habitual false start holding right tackle on your team. You can't go backwards right now. It used to be Patrick Mahomes, we're in a 3rd and 18 because of 2 holding calls. Well, hell, we just pick it up and 1 pass play to Tyreek, or we'll throw it deep, or we'll hit Juju, or Mahomes will scramble, or Kelce comes up in a big 3rd and 21 spot. We don't have that anymore. And we're not gonna have it until we get some of these guys back. But even then, those margins for errors have just shrunk, and you can't go backwards nowadays like we once could and still thrive with our offensive system and scheme. Speaking of offensive scheme, evolution. And I talked about this kind of to wrap up the Super Bowl this past year, reactions to that against the Eagles. I talked about how we do need to evolve. I believe Andy Reid is one of the greatest play callers, if not the greatest play caller to ever grace the National Football League. But oftentimes these pick routes, some of these schemes, some of this stuff is still just... it seems pretty basic. It seems 2018. It seems 2021. It doesn't seem 2025. It doesn't scream, I've evolved. I've given Pat more answers. I've given our wide receivers more answers. I've given the offensive line different blocking schemes to help out. We've mainly relied on Patrick Mahomes' arm and legs to get us through. And right now, that's not enough. It just isn't. And that's okay, Chiefs fans. That's okay, Chiefs Kingdom, because, like I said, we are going to get Rashi back. We are going to get Xavier Worthy back. But if you're thinking that that's all it's going to take, no, you're sadly mistaken. But I am excited to get those guys back and to get rolling once they do. The other part of it, too, and I don't want to be too critical on Patrick Mahomes, but he deserves to be critiqued as well. He deserves to be criticized. Go check it out. Go check out our clip, our reel. We're posting those every week, all week. I'm making sure you guys get a little flavor and a little touch of our long-form episodes. But I love the way Patrick Mahomes played last week. Lowering the shoulder, really showing the Chargers who was boss. Really trying to fire up his team and make a statement and say, hey guys, we got to do this. We got to be physical. We got to go run the ball. We got to figure out a way to get momentum and do our thing. And I think he did a great job of that last week. Even though the numbers were okay, I thought just his presence, his aura, I thought he was really good this last week. This week, against Philadelphia, I didn't think he was so hot. I mean, I thought he was okay, right? I don't think he played bad or poorly. But it was just kind of, namely, we all know what I'm referencing, the long throw to Tyquan Thornton. And this is just situational stuff. Two things on it. Number one, at that point in time, I believe there was 3 minutes and 55 seconds left on the clock. If he hits the wide open Tyquan Thornton throw, it gives the Chiefs another whole minute to try and get the ball back, versus he misses that throw, then he tries Tyquan again on the sideline, misses that throw and catch. Thornton just didn't catch it. And then, of course, third time's the charm. He hits him deep in the end zone, but at that time, there's just a shade over 2 minutes left in the ball game. And now it becomes incredibly difficult for us to try to get the ball back, especially with no timeouts. If he hits him a minute earlier, that's another minute we have, gives our defense to get that back to us. That's point number one. Point number two, and it's interesting because I think if you really watch the Chiefs and you really study Mahomes, and if you're just, a Kingdom fan, he's talked about it, Andy Reid's talked about it, his footwork, his technique. It's never been good, and I don't think it's ever going to be good. I think Patrick Mahomes is a off-platform player, and that's what makes him so great, being able to flick his wrist, stand on his back foot with somebody in his face, and still throw a 45-yard dot. Patrick Mahomes can twist his bodies in ways that make me just cringe and hurt when I'm watching him. But you still have to have technique. You still have to have footwork. And I think it's part of two things. I think one, that's just Pat, and it's been a continued evolution of him trying to work on these things. But the other part of it, too, is he hasn't had a viable left tackle in a really long time. Every time we played Tampa Bay, Philadelphia, any team with some decent pass rush, he's had to run for his life. Whether it's him breaking pocket early or our line just not blocking for him. And I think it's a combination of the two. I think Pat has mediocre feet, but then he's just not used to having Josh Simmons, our rookie left tackle, who I think we just found our left tackle for the next decade plus. I don't think he's used to having that time. So if you remember, during that Tyquan Thornton overthrow, he pumped once, Mahomes pumps once, then he overthrows him. And I think the pump, and I think him not standing tall in that pocket and delivering that wide open throw was just he's thinking, hey, maybe I have somebody breathing down my neck on that left side, and I have to scramble. And then his awareness kicks in, and he goes, oh gosh, no, I've got a shutdown left tackle here, and I don't have to worry about my blind side. I can step up, I can plant my feet, and I can make a hell of a throw to go down and start to win this football game. And I think there's a little skittishness there. And I think it's one of those things to where as the season progresses, as Mahomes starts to trust that left side and Josh Simmons more and more and more, I think you're going to see Mahomes a lot more accurate. I think you're going to see him a lot more comfortable just standing tall in that pocket. But right now it's growing pains. Right now it's building trust, not just with the receivers, but the offensive line. And so overall, like I said, we didn't lose the ball game because we played a bad game. We had plenty of opportunities. We lost the ball game because we had a lot of bonehead mistakes, and we had opportunities that we squandered. Oftentimes in the past, the Chiefs have that championship DNA. They've been the very best at executing in critical moments, mainly because our quarterback, but then also too everybody's ability to heighten their focus in crunch time, knowing we have a quarterback and a coach that's going to put us in the right situation to succeed. And over these past few games, going back even into the Super Bowl, that trust, some of those mistakes that we made, we've had a couple of big Kelsey drops, things like that just haven't gone our way. And, it is the National Football League. There's a lot of parity. Things will regress back to the mean. And right now, that's just what we're going through. However, we're 0-2. We all know this. We get Rashee Rice back. We get Xavier Worthy back. Hopefully for week 3, there's been some reporting here that he will be back for the Giants game. Hopefully there. And Mahomes, and this is going to get better. The defense, of course, played really well against Philadelphia. Historically, in a Spags defense, Steve Spagnuolo, that our defense, it takes 2 to 3 to 4 weeks to really get in a groove. So I'm excited for that. They've turned it around. They don't need to be elite. But if you're holding teams to 20 points or less, at some point in time, your offense is going to go win you a ball game. So for those reasons, I'm still encouraged, Chiefs Kingdom. I encourage you to be as well. But we do. Is it panic time in Kansas City? No. It's not panic time. You don't hit the big red button on Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. But is it time to get going? Yeah, it's time to get going. Previewing, kind of upcoming schedule. Like I said, we've got the New York Giants here coming up. I believe, it's at New York, technically in New Jersey, fun fact. However, yes, we've got the Jersey. It's a Sunday night football game, 7:30 there on ESPN. I'm excited for it. I'm excited. The Giants have some good guys. Malik Neighbors, washed Russell Wilson is out here throwing for 500 yards, throwing moon balls again. But they get beaten overtime by the Dallas Cowboys, which, hey, watch out for Dallas. Hey, they're messing around a little bit, a little scrappy without Micah Parsons. We'll see how that turns out. But you got the Giants. It's a get-right game. Looking at the schedule, though, guys, you come back home against Baltimore. We know what they are. They just scored 40-plus points again for the second week in a row. Lamar, all he has is 4 total touchdowns, etc., etc. And then, of course, you go on the road. You play the Jaguars. Very winnable game there. And then you come back home against the fearsome Detroit Lions. This is the Chiefs Lions and NFL Talk. Catch us every Wednesday on our YouTube channel here at Heartland NFL Talk and our Spotify as well. So these first 6 weeks, tough. We all knew it, especially down Rashee Rice. Then you lose Xavier Worthy. And then, of course, you're having some of these struggles with our running game as well. It hasn't been pretty. It's not going to be pretty. But if we can get out of these first 6 games, 3-3, I'll take it. We get our guys back. Let's roll. So Chiefs Kingdom, stick with us all season. We're going to have a lot of fun. We've got some stuff coming up in the year, some live streams, some opportunities to tailgate, some live fan reactions, things of that nature as well. But keep your head up, Chiefs Kingdom. Once again, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Catch us every Wednesday. You can also catch us, of course, on our Spotify at Heartland Huddle as well. With that, if you're still listening, you're a huddler. Hit that subscribe button, engage in the comments, and let us know. With that, we're out.